everyone. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the pool. So, the filter is going on right now, so I hope it's not too loud. Um, but I today was watching season 2 of Canada's Drag Race, and their challenge is centered around the 7 deadly sins. And of course, it got me thinking about astrology because why wouldn't it? And so today I wanted to associate the 7 deadly sins with these 7 traditional planets. Um, because I think this number 7 comes up so often in, you know, life. um, and it's for a reason. These 7 planets have been guiding us forever, right? Um, it's a constant of our earthly experience when we look out from our perspective in the night sky. There are, or I guess in the daytime, but then also at the nighttime, there are these 7 bodies, heavenly bodies. Um, and so, we kind of have 7 ways of separating things. Um, so let's just get right into it. I'm not gonna go in order, not that there is an order, I don't know that there is, but, I guess I guess I will go in an order. I'll start with the sun. So, the, um, sin I chose for the sun is, of course, pride, although I think it should be called hubris, excessive pride, um, because I don't think it's a sin to have pride, to be proud, but when it gets to a point of hubris, a point of excess, a point of egotisticism, um, when you become egocentric, when you think that you're better than, and because you're better than, the rules don't apply, or, um, you don't have to, pander to the peasants. You're just so much better than. I feel like that's could be the shadow side, the dark side, the negative side of the sun. Um, the sun is the center of the universe, right? And um, it is a, a focal point. It draws focus. It shines light. Um, but I think, you know, the sun only shines half of the day, right? We can't always be focused on those brightest parts of ourselves. Um, and we have to realize that we are simply human. We can't, you know, always be shining bright. We can't always be at our 100%, and we're not meant to be. And if we think that we're always at 100%, that becomes that over excessive sense of pride. Um, you're simply not. I love just being a floating head here. Um, but yes, that's the sun, pride, hubris. Um, you're not always the center of attention, and that's a good thing. Um, take a step back. You don't always have to shine the brightest. Um, and that's the thing about the sun is that too much sun burns. You don't want to be burning away potential friendships or relationships or opportunities just because you think you're so great. I'm sure you're great, but, you know, leave a little space for others to show their greatness as well. Okay, moving on to the moon. And so this one was kind of the hardest for me to um, decide. But I think I chose, well, I know that I chose gluttony. Um, and so a lot of these have to do with excess, right? Um, Gluttony is consuming in excess. Um, you know, and I thought of the moon because the moon, when I think of the moon, I think of being like satiated. I specifically think of like the full moon and having like a fullness of energy. I also think of like roundness, like cancer babies have like really round faces and round features. Um, Look, the birds are here. Hello, birds. I want to show you the birds. Hopefully they don't fly away. And they're flying away. Okay. I think they're fighting over this piece of food. Very fitting for gluttony. Girl, you gotta share. Sharing is caring. Hey y'all, I am back. We were talking about gluttony, overindulging. Um, the moon is, to me, something that is very body focused, very focused on like sensations, feeling, um, and also like our energy, our like internal energy. And I think sometimes, um, maybe when we feel a lot of overwhelming emotions, um, we can succumb to overindulgence, to gluttony. Um, um, and that can be harmful to ourselves, and also to others. You know, um, because when you do too much, when you eat too much, when you overindulge, when you get too much, what am I saying here? When you're doing too much, you're doing too much. Okay, no, oh, yourself and others. So you're harming yourself by not treating yourself the way you should be treating yourself. And I feel like this one can lead to another, right? Um, we're going to talk about sloth in a second. Um, but I think, overindulging gluttony can lead us to some other things. Um, and it doesn't feel good. It may feel good in the moment, but the aftermath is always, ugh, you know? Um, and that's interesting. And I think the moon, um, fits well with this because I think, they call it lunacy for a reason. Sometimes the moon and its energy can make us act in ways that don't really make sense, um, and do things that we normally would not do, and that simply are not in the best interests of ourselves. And then I simply want to touch upon how I said it like can also affect others. Like this will tie into greed as well, but if you're taking more than what you need, especially in a sense of like food, you are wasting. You're taking away from what others could have used. Um, and there is enough food and space to create enough food on this planet. But with the way that the world is currently, there are people who do not have enough food or access to enough food. Um, and so eating more or taking more and then wasting it, throwing it away, um, is really sad and it should not be happening. Um, so do your best to only need what you need. Only take what you need. Um, yes. Okay. Moving on. Okay, this was another one that I wasn't super sure with at first, but now it kind of makes sense to me in my crazy thinking. And that is Mercury and the sin of envy. Um, envy, jealousy, desiring what other people have. Um, and Mercury. So Mercury is an interesting planet because it is very small. And maybe because it's small, it's jealous of the power that other planets have. Um, but I also think Mercury is very easy to be influenced. Influenceable. Like whenever a planet is near Mercury, Mercury is said to take on the qualities of that planet or the planet it most closely aspects. Um, and so Mercury always wants to be just like everyone else around it. Um, and sometimes it is a good thing, to see something you like and try to project it and create that same, feeling that you felt is it can be a good thing. But sometimes trying to be something that you're not or um, just wanting something that maybe isn't meant for you um is sad. It's detrimental. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. Um yeah, envy, Mercury. Um that's another thing about Mercury is that it's like said to be the messenger to um the other planets and to God specifically, like the sun. Because it is so frequently from our perspective going back and forth into the heart of the sun. Um, so it is of Mercury's nature to rely on other people and communication and things like that. Um, but I guess maybe that dark side of Mercury is wanting what others have. But, you know, Mercury needs to learn that it's not meant to be any of those other things. It is meant to be exactly who it is. And um, just because you don't have something doesn't mean you're less than. Um, you probably have something else that you're not seeing that others potentially would be envious of you. Okay, moving on. I think we have the most clear, evident, obvious one, and that would be Venus with lust. And so Venus is the planet of beauty and the planet of pleasure. Um, and that also includes like sexual pleasure. I don't really love the whole narrative shift we got with these modern astrologers saying that Mars is the planet of sex. Mars is the planet of war. It's the planet of severance, of cutting, of sharp things. Like, I really don't love that we're associating these things with love and pleasure and sex. Sex should not only be painful and dominatory and forceful. Um, I think that's just like kind of an interesting commentary on culture, how and who's like pushing that narrative? The patriarchy? Get out of here. Get out of here with that. But anyways, um sometimes Venus, if you're only prioritizing pleasure and specifically your pleasure over other things, um, you're doing harm. You're you're not embodying maybe the highest essence of Venus in its very reciprocal and loving, sharing nature. Um, yeah, to lust is to almost um, think about pleasure and focus on it without focusing on anything else surrounding it. And I guess that's sort of like the flip side of these excess things. It's isolation, right? So some of these sins are about doing too much. Um, but I guess some of the other sins are about doing too little, focusing in on too little. Um, I guess we could say Mercury was sort of like that with envy, jealousy. You're only focusing in on what you don't have. Um, and then the same with Venus, um, lust. Okay, moving on. We have Mars, and this one was obvious, the most obvious, another one of the most obvious, easy ones, wrath, you know, anger. And this is another one where I feel like it's an excess of anger. And because anger is natural, it is normal. Things in this world are upsetting, and we're bound to get upset. But when you feel wrath, when you feel overcome, it's like there's an excess of anger and you're not. It's kind of both. It's excess and isolation. There's so much anger that it's the only thing that you can focus on, and that's when you become, you know, wrathful. Um, and you can do harm. These are sins for a reason. They're not things that we should be doing on a regular basis, like I think in this world we're not free of sin or whatever. We're bound to make mistakes. We're bound to do things that are regrettable. Um, but acknowledging and changing our behavior to prevent it from happening again, or being able to calm ourselves down, remove ourselves from situations where we are prone to make those same similar um, decisions, is possible and important. And yeah, there's two sides to every coin. Um, Sometimes it is necessary to be angry and to be defensive and to cut things off where they need to be cut off. But sometimes it's not necessary and you are doing more harm than good. Um, and that's another thing. Like, I think in astrology, um, people are sort of afraid of these negative planets such as Mars or Saturn. Um, but negativeness, darkness, these things are necessary. Things can't exist without its opposite. Um, like the light only exists because of the dark. Like it wouldn't be, its own thing if it was the only thing. We wouldn't say, "Oh, it's daytime, it's light out now versus it's dark out," because it would simply just be. Um, so we need that balancing effect, and it's not all bad. Um, it can't be bad, but just like these supposedly good doing planets, can also be bad. There's a light and a darkness to everything. And I kind of want to do like something. I don't know if they're like I think the seven deadly sins come from the Bible. I don't really know. I'm not super religious. I don't know much about um any religions, to be honest. Um, but I don't know that there's like an opposite, and I feel like there should be. And maybe I'll invent it. The seven sacred sensations or something. Um, to sort of highlight the opposite sides of all of these different planets. I guess I kind of went into their essence a little bit in my other astro ramble, talking about the planets and the principles of life. But I kind of want to focus on like the good side since in this video I'm really focusing on the negative. But anyways, that's like super tangent. Let's move on to well, let me just wrap up Wrath. Wrath, yeah, it's Mars. It's Mars in its worst moments. It's Mars when, the blade goes in a little too deep and you rupture a kidney and you bleed out and die, you know? Um, Wrath is anger in its excess, and it's scary. It's scary to be around and to see in yourself also. Like when you, um, calm down and you're able to take a step back from that moment, it's sort of scary to realize the potential you have for pain in this world. But we're all human beings, you know? What can we do? Moving on to Jupiter. And this, of course, is greed. Jupiter is the biggest planet, the planet of larger than life things. It's also known as the planet of fortune. And when we focus only on fortune and on acquiring as much as we want, that is the downside of Jupiter, of expansiveness. It's hoarding. It's overindulging. It's the similar to gluttony. It's taking more than you need. Um, I really hate greed. I feel like greed is one of the biggest sins in our society. Um, because of the way we're focused around something that is so easy to be greedy of. um, I get too freaking communist up in here, but I really just hate money and capitalism and the way our world has turned into because imagine the things we could have on this earth if the 1% wasn't hoarding all the wealth. um it's really upsetting. Anyways, um yeah, greed to me is Jupiter's darkness. It is um wanting so much that you don't care who else has. um and I guess that's sort of like a similar theme is in these sins. It's where we draw the line about, because yes, okay, we draw the line of like selfishness, because yes, in this world we are alone in our beings, but we're never alone, in life. um you simply cannot survive alone, you know um I don't think you could do all the things you need to survive by yourself. um Grow all the food, build the houses, do the fire to keep you warm, cut down the like all, like it's very hard to be completely 100% self-reliant. And so we have to have respect for others. And that's sort of, I guess, the focus of these sins is when we're drawing that line, we're not really focusing on the other people, and we're not really even treating ourselves right. We're focused on this idea of self that doesn't really exist because we do not exist in a bubble. And we have to acknowledge that. Um, yes, okay. And so, last but certainly not least, is sloth. And when I heard this, I was like, well, what the hell is even that? What is sloth? Like all the other words, you know, I knew what they meant. And for some reason, I didn't think of the animal sloth. I was like, what does sloth mean? And I wonder if the animal was named after this word, if like sloth means to move slowly or something, laziness, and that's why the animal is called that, or if the sin is called that because of the animal. Let me know in the comments down below. I guess I'll probably look it up before I post this video, but I'm not looking it up right now, even though I could. I have my little browser window right here, but I don't really care that much. But anyways, sloth, laziness is, of course, Saturn. Saturn is the slowest moving planet. It is a planet of stagnance, and steadiness. Um, and I think that's why I would say my biggest seven deadly sin is probably sloth. I am so lazy and I am super incredibly Saturn ruled. And I definitely see the darkness of Saturn, not just the darkness, but the downside of Saturn, because darkness isn't always um, negative, but it can be. And, sometimes it's important to take things slow, but sometimes not moving when you can and when you should, it really only hurts yourself. I mean, it also can hurt other people. Like, that's the whole point of this video. Okay, we get it. These sins are harmful to ourselves and others. We shouldn't be doing them. I feel like a broken record right now. But Saturn and its approach is not the approach we need to take to everything. Um, some things are meant to be quick and one and done. Um, and when we put things off or when we wait around, um, we're not doing anybody any favors. And yeah, so that's my 7 deadly sins. We had the sun and pride, hubris. Um, we had the moon and gluttony, overindulgence. We had Mercury and envy, jealousy. We had Venus with lust. We had Mars with wrath. Jupiter with greed, and Saturn with sloth. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's Astro Ramble. I felt like it was time for an Astro Ramble, and I found myself in the pool and thinking about, astrology. So that's what I did. Bye now.